Welcome to Meaningful Mornings, a workshop where there are no holidays. Do you want a holiday for meaning? I was reading an article in Psychology Today about fear. And fear was presented as a feararchy, like a hierarchy. This is a feararchy. The grossest fear we have, according to this article in Psychology Today, is fear of extinction. Subtler than that, fear of mutilation. Subtler than that is fear of loss of autonomy. Loss of autonomy. Subtler than that is fear of separation. And the subtlest fear in this feararchy is fear of death of the ego, fear of ego death. As I reflected on these insights, I'd asked all of you to reflect on the three fundamental fears we all have. The first fear we all have is fear of death. This article shares this as extinction and mutilation. The second fear we have is fear of the unknown. This article shares this as loss of autonomy and separation and ego death. But this article didn't identify the third fear we have, which is fear of sorrow. Death, unknown, sorrow are our fundamental fears. All other fears are just different names and forms of these three. Why do people fear public speaking? Because they associate that with judgment, with failure, and most strongly, the sorrow that comes with failure. For someone who disassociates failure and sorrow, there's no fear of public speaking. I think we are all oriented towards this, but here's the deeper implication. Point to me who you are least afraid of. Yourselves. We fear that which is different. We are not different from ourselves, so we have no fear of ourselves. We fear that which is different. What is the opposite of death? Sat, or existence. What is the opposite of the unknown? Chit, or awareness. And what is the opposite of sorrow? Ananda, or joy. Our fears are teaching us who we are. We are existence, awareness, joy. And often we need a community, often we need a focus on knowledge to learn from our own experiences. You are happiness. That's why I keep reminding you, be happiness. And you're looking at me, who is he talking to? We are flowing through the Sthita Prajna Lakshanas. A Lakshana is a pointer. These Lakshanas are not for the one who is peaceful. They don't need any pointers. This is for those who are pursuing peace, as in us. We do need pointers. I hope you would have observed, since we began our exploration of Bhagavad Gita, our team has been preparing how we practice. And this is shared every day on Facebook because we have to practice. A lakshana is a practice. Technically it means pointer, but it's how we should be living. This begins in verse 55. The lakshana or pointer or practice is contentment. Be content. Why? Because that's who you are. If I asked all of you to leave the room you're in right now, and there's no other beings in the room, can there be happiness in that room? If there's other beings, they'll say, yes, now there's more happiness now that you're gone. But there can't be. And as soon as you come back, can there be happiness? Yes. Happiness depends on your presence. Correct? Contentment. Contentment is not about giving up. It is about growing up. You don't have to give up anything in terms of articles, beings, circumstances. You have to grow up into your nature. Share differently. For contentment, one does not need to engage in viraga. Viraga means dispassion or detachment. Conversely, one needs to engage in anuraga, which means loving your nature. Being serious about joy, you will have a natural independence from articles, beings, and circumstances. I explained to all of you, I believe on Friday, the word sannyasa. Sam means well. Ni means down. Asa, which comes from the root as, which means to throw. Sannyasa, we often interpret as throwing down whatever. The practical definition of sannyasa is to focus on self-development, to focus on your original parent. Continuing, in verse 56, 4 more lakshanas are shared. Whether one is in dukkha or sukha, that is pain or pleasure, one is balanced. That's the second lakshana, to be balanced. And this is so obvious. If one is identifying with their nature, we call this Atman. Atman means that which is closest. The more close you are to the center, the more balanced you will be, correct? For those who ski, which I'm sure is not a large group of all of you. I grew up skiing. I'm very fond of skiing. When I want to go fast, I lower my center of gravity. Correct? I'm more balanced as I'm tucked in, but as I'm spread out, I'm less balanced then. Imagine you're identified with your nature, the closest. The 3 other indicators in this verse, there's no raga, which is attachment. So the indicator is independence. There's no bhaya or fear, so the indicator is fearlessness. And there's no krodha or anger, there is acceptance, contentment, balance, independence, fearlessness, and acceptance. These are the 5 indicators in verses 55 and 56. Everyone's in sync? In verse 57, what is highlighted is one who is joyous. They're beyond a controlled environment and an uncontrolled environment. As they engage in that which is shubha, ashubha, meaning positive, negative, it doesn't affect them. They have nothing to gain, so they have nothing to lose. And a very practical way to understand this, since they know their vastness, that was the first knowing we explored. What naturally comes then, they also know change. Some days the weathers are cool, some days the weathers are hot. Some day you wake up cheerful, some days you wake up less cheerful. The more you know vastness, the more you know change, so the more you know your responsibility. You are unaffected by change. You adhere to your responsibilities, which is why I prefaced Meaningful Mornings this morning as what holiday? A holiday from being cheerful? A holiday from being content? That's nonsense. Now that we've invested 13 minutes in a review, let's spend 2 minutes on verse 58, 58. This is a simple verse. This is a very visual verse. Yada samharate chayam kurmongani va sarvashaha indriyan indriyartebhyaha tasya prajna pratishtita. Another yada tada. If this is you, then this is who you are. Samharate kurmaha angani iva sarvashaha. Like a turtle, or how people of Indian origin like to reference, a tortoise, but you may not understand my enunciation, so it's tortoise. Like a tortoise withdraws its limbs. Indriyani, indriyartebhyaha. A master can withdraw the sense organs from the sense objects. Tasya prajna pratishtita. Such a master then is one who's living in God's world. Such a master is one who is silent, irrespective of context. This is the translation. I'll elaborate marginally. Have you all seen a turtle or a tortoise before? And the closer you come, suppose you stamp your foot beside that tortoise, what does it do? It quickly puts its legs and arms and head in its shell, correct? Why is it doing that? Out of protection. Yes? Whereas a master, a sthita prajna, does not do this out of protection. And think deeply about why. They have nothing to gain, so they have nothing to lose. That also means they have nothing to protect, correct? They are able to withdraw their sense organs from the sense objects, not out of protection, but rather direction. Direction. And what that means is when they engage in the sense objects with their sense organs, just like we do, they have a complete experience. I'm fond of pecan pie. And as I eat pecan pie, what am I thinking? About the next slice, correct? As I'm eating the first slice, I'm already thinking I should quickly eat this one. That way no one else gets the next one. See how incomplete that experience is. But for a master, they're experiencing what they're experiencing not for completeness. They're already complete. So that's why they can direct their sense organs. For a person like Vivek, I'm itching for pecan pie. So then what do? I indulge in pecan pie. Then what happens? I continue to itch for pecan pie. You see that cycle? Itch, indulge, itch, indulge. We will think more about this. Istita prajna lakshanas. There are 10 lakshanas, 10 practices. They are not contained in each verse in a very linear way. Lots needs to be reflected upon, and I will guide you through this. Okay? Focus on the practice, not the technicalities. To application. Your application was to live in God's world. How many of you tried? You must have had an amazing Independence Day weekend then, correct? How can you be more independent? The way to live in God's world, to sit in the lap of your original parent, is to remember stane. Stane means all is as all is. Write those words, reflect on those words. You become fully accepting and let go of expecting. When you're in the home, in the company of someone you revere, you expect nothing of them. You accept everything that is them and comes from them. That's how you know you're living in God's world. Less expectations, more acceptance. Your application for this morning, I want you to have a tortoise outside of where you live or right as you enter where you live. Some of you already, I've seen your turtles, and I mean not a real one. You have this tank outside. Best is if you can make your own, because it's so natural. If you can't make your own, get one that is natural, meaning not plastic, a metal one or a clay one, but have a turtle right outside where you live or right at the entrance of where you live. We'll go through this verse more tomorrow. Shanti, shanti, shantihi. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be happiness.